Welcome to INCRadio South Central States. I'm your host for today, Brother Nathan Russell, joining you from Fort Worth, Texas. It's a very chilly morning this morning. Um, let's say you kind of turned in early yesterday. It was like 70 degrees yesterday, and then you woke up this morning and it was 30. Yep, such is life in South Central states. So hopefully you can enjoy it though, because it is really sunny out. So hopefully the winds die down. I was out there jogging earlier this morning and it was very, very cold. So keep that in mind when you go out there, even though it's about 40 degrees now, it is very windy outside. So keep that in mind. Now, today we are going to discuss work life balance. And that's why I kind of brought up me jogging this morning as part of that balance, trying to, balance the multiple things in our lives. Of course, I know my audience here in South Central States and throughout the world, we're very busy, especially at church. We're very active. So hopefully we can gain some things from today's discussion about work life balance. Okay. And before we continue, though, I'd like to greet the local congregation of Dallas, Texas, as they are celebrating their 48th anniversary. So, in the chat today, you can drop down your thoughts regarding work life balance. You can join in the conversation at any point. Of course, the comments, that is my favorite part of this show, hearing from everybody throughout our district and throughout the world. Okay. And also, you can greet the local congregation of Dallas. Now, we're going to start with our question of the day. I'm going to go ahead and drop that into the chat. And that is, what do you do in your spare time? Okay. So we know that everybody's time is precious. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on what you do in your spare time. So, for example, like today, I went for a jog. So, trying to keep up with my health. I want to say that I'm keeping up with my New Year's resolution, but I kept up with this New Year's resolution probably from about 5 years back that I would work out every single day, no rest days. Realistically, though, there are rest days. So if I say I'm going to work out 7 days of a week, typically I can only get about five, and that's typically what you want to be able to do. You don't want to work out every single day. You do need days of rest. But keeping that mindset, though, that I have that I'm going to work out every single day has kept me on track for I think about 5, 6 years now. Okay, so something to consider as part of your work life balance. Okay, but let's go ahead and drop into the chat because we do have a few comments. We have our brother Froy from Jacksonville, Arkansas, greeting us. I'm sure it's also cold up there too. Speaking of Jacksonville, Arkansas in general, great place to be outdoors. Okay, so if you're an outdoors person, that work life balance must be pretty good if you enjoy being outside. And my wife, of course, is greeting us from Fort Worth, Texas, Sister Melanie. She says during her spare time, she enjoys reading and taking our son, it's not just her son, it's our son, for walks and hikes. Okay. So I think we plan on going on a hike this Monday. I know that many of us may be off on Monday since it is a federal holiday. So be sure to enjoy that time off, take advantage of that work life balance. Something to consider too is maybe you don't want a work life balance. You don't want things perfectly balanced. You want a work life imbalance. And what I mean by that is you want more of your life and less of work. Okay. Something to consider, a different mindset to take. Okay. But yes, I do know that my wife, she does enjoy reading. She has read like over 50 books in a year. So I think she started that 2, 3 years ago and really fantastic. Of course, she balances that, in her spare time. Whenever she can catch a break, she'll crack open a book and she'll read it. So she's read probably well over 150, 200 books since she started that. So props to that. Another thing I like to do in my spare time is disc golf. Okay. And I like to mention disc golf because it is probably everywhere in our district. I've been around Texas, has traveled around, and they have a disc golf course that's kind of everywhere. And what's nice about disc golf versus like regular golf, you don't have to pay for anything other than your own equipment. Okay. It's an outdoor activity Lots of walking involved, so nothing too intense. The learning curve can be kind of high, although I've brought people out disc golfing with me, and we've kept the games close. So what I like to say about disc golf is it's very easy to get into, and it's very difficult to get good at. So the road to mediocrity is like real wide. So, but still, it's a very fun recreational activity. It's similar to golf, as in the name. So you'll show up to a course. Typically, they'll have like 9 baskets instead of holes, and they'll be in a lot of parks. Maybe you've seen these baskets around. You're wondering what they were. They can go up to like 18 baskets, but take a look in your area. I know they have some apps. You can also look on your favorite map um, website, and you can look up disc golf courses. And I guarantee you, there's probably one in your area. So something worth getting into. I know I've gotten maybe like 4 or 5 of my friends into disc golf, and they've really enjoyed it. So that's another part of that work life balance is finding recreational activities that are easy to get into. So that's why I bring up that particular one because it's pretty easy to get into. It's not terribly expensive to get into either to get started. And of course, all the courses are free. So can't beat that. Can't beat free 99, right? All right. So let's go ahead and go to our next question, though. And that is work, life, and church. Okay. Of course, since all of us we prioritize church above all, how do we balance those three: work, life, and church? And I know not a lot of brethren that know me; they know I hold a lot of offices, but I don't let that hold me back from enjoying my life and spending time with my family. Okay, think about the economics. Okay, if you think about economics, supply and demand. Okay, let's not get too deep into the weeds with economic theory, but the busier you are, the more valuable your time is going to be, is what you can sum it up to be. So I found that the busier that I got, the more valuable my time was. So any spare time that I had, I would really, really cherish it, and I would make sure that I utilize it to its fullest because it's very rarely that we can get free time, especially if we are busy. If we're working lots of hours, if we're busy with our offices, then one thing we have to consider is changing our mindset when it comes to how we utilize our time. Okay, so uh, let's see. I got another greeting from Ron Seaman, watching from a very cold Jacksonville, Arkansas. So, Jacksonville in the chat here today. Thank you for joining us. Since we're back on Arkansas, talking about work life balance, there's so many nice places in Arkansas to go. If you like driving, okay, they have some really scenic highways that run up and down Arkansas. So if you like going on little road trips, highly recommend that. You can take a picnic on top of a mountain. I mean, I'm telling you, Arkansas, very underrated place to visit. It's often overshadowed by places like Colorado, when it comes to the outdoors. But Jacksonville, that area in Arkansas, more than holds its own. Okay, really nice wood. Just be aware, there's a lot of bugs in the wood you got to be careful of. So another way we balance time between work life and church, incorporating that with our family, is try to incorporate your family in those aspects. Of course, we can't bring our children to work. A lot of us don't have that luxury, so that our kids can be with us. And it's very important that we do prioritize time with our children because you'll find that for a lot of children, they really want to spend time with their parents, especially when they're young. When they get older, maybe not so much. But if you can kind of lay that foundation as they're growing up, that parents, they really want to spend time with me, and you value every time. I know you can come home from a long day's work, you'd be very tired, having to fight your way through traffic, and all you want to do is kick back and relax. Just remember your children. They're only going to be children for so long, so be sure we try to prioritize. And that was a lesson I had to learn, to kind of set aside my tiredness and dedicate time with my son. So things like that, things that I could do like with my son, since he's about 12. Oh, he's turning 12 this year. Just watching TV shows with him, that we would both enjoy, video games. So of course, being a millennial growing up, played lots of video games growing up. So I that's something I can share with my son. Usually I beat him though, but because I don't go easy on him though, he plays really hard and he learns how to play, so he can beat me on his own. So props to that. But that quality time that you spend with your child will pay off, in the long run, especially when they become teenagers. Um, they'll remember that time that you spent with them. You have that relationship set. They're more likely to communicate with us. All right, let's see. Let's drop into the chat again. So, Sister Melanie, it all starts with choosing opportunities that won't hinder you from attending worship service in places that actually have places of worship. That's very true. So, as members of the church, we prioritize making sure we always attend worship service. So, it's not unusual at all for members of the church to have basically 100% attendance when it comes to worship service. And I would be safe to say that almost every member of the church could probably only count on one hand the number of times that they've missed worship service, because we're that dedicated to making sure that we prioritize it. So when you plan vacations out, always check the map. So shout out to iglesianicristo.net, the official website. They do have the directory of the church. They have a map. So wherever you're traveling, okay, across this country, pretty much any major city here in the United States, you're going to find a house of worship to be able to attend. And you'd be surprised. There's some places out there, that you wouldn't think. I've mentioned before Farmington, New Mexico, which is on the top part of New Mexico, just across the border from Colorado, in a really beautiful place. They have a small group worship service there. And oftentimes, when I plan out my routes, when I go take road trips, I look for where the congregations are at, and I make sure I always attend, make sure I always prioritize that. So, very good point, Sister Mel. We are also greeted by our sister Mylene Novello from Blue Ridge. Blue Ridge, that's a nice place to visit, by the way. It's out there in the way up north of Dallas. It's an interesting drive in this little tiny small town, out in the middle of nowhere in the hills of Texas. So, greetings from Blue Ridge. Thank you for joining us. We also have Roland de Torres greeting us from the District of Mediterranean. Then we also have Brother Joshua Reyes. Hello and happy viewing to all watching from the District of South America. All right. So we're getting viewers from all over the world. Thank you for joining us here today. Feel free to drop in your thoughts too about work life balance. I'd love to hear it from everybody. So be sure to drop that in. All right. So let's also talk about sacrifices to make time. Okay. So for most of us, we're not going to be able to sacrifice necessarily our work time. Okay. We have to be able to provide for our needs. We have to be able to provide for our family's needs. So typically that 8 hours plus the, 2 hours of commute, 10 hours of that day, okay, to work, will be dedicated to that work. I know as a teacher, when I was a teacher, it went beyond that. You would work, for those 8 hours. You would come home, then you would have papers to grade. And at some point, though, you want to, if work is starting to creep into your life, you may not want to, I hate to say it, but you may not want to work as hard, okay, because you don't necessarily want to live for your jobs. Okay, you don't want to look back when you're older and miss out and think that you missed out on all those times that you could have spent with your family. So those kind of tough choices that you have to make, um, whether choosing work and family, just think, just put yourself in your shoes. 20 years from now, are you going to regret not taking that time for that family? And maybe you just miss out on a promotion. Maybe your performance at work isn't the best. Or maybe you just have to, try to work harder at work. I know that's something that I've had to do personally. Was, okay, if I don't want to take this work home, I need to get it all done, um, while I'm at work. But on the flip side, when I got this new job, it's also realizing when you are blessed. Okay. Uh, Sometimes when you're blessed with a job, like the one that I have currently, it doesn't really demand my time outside of office. It doesn't demand my time during the weekends. I have to realize that I am blessed that I'm in this situation and I need to utilize that. I need to not waste that. I need to not forget that I used to not have time for family. I used to not have as much time for church. Now that that time is freed up, now that I don't have to worry about that outside of work, okay? Am I using this time, to the best of my abilities? Am I using this time for something meaningful, like, the offices that we have at church? Okay. So when it comes to sacrifices that you have to make time, um, one thing that I've learned even from a young age, don't sacrifice your time at church. I know there may be some who are in college or going to college, thinking about college or remembering their time in college. You have to choose between church, maybe even work, college, and then family. You're juggling a lot of these things. One thing that I would not compromise on is church. Okay, I know that we all know that education is very valuable. Okay, but it's not really going to mean anything in the end if you kind of lose your faith. Okay, everything, our foundations of how we live our life and what gives meaning to our lives. Okay, we hear it time and time again. Money doesn't buy happiness. Okay, money does pay the bills, but it doesn't buy happiness, and it becomes more apparent the older that you get. So, biggest advice, and you'll hear this, from older members. Don't sacrifice your duties, for work. Don't sacrifice your duties for school. Okay. When you're faced with that choice, okay, when you are in that moment, okay, that is the test of your faith right there. And I could think back when I had the choice of taking an easy class or a hard class. Well, if I took the easy class, I wouldn't be able to go to worship service to perform my duty, for example. Well, I can't choose that class. I'm gonna have to take the harder route. And I did make that choice. And everything was just fine. Okay. So in those moments when your faith is tested and you have to make that choice, make the right choice. Always choose God. Okay. You'll be taken care of in the long run. You will see it. And you hear it in the voices of those older than us. It's very good to talk to those older brethren. You can hear it in their voices when they talk about their experiences, and they talk with such confidence. Okay, and there's a reason why they talk with that confidence. They had no doubt in their mind that they made the right choice. So that's what they want to pass on. So it's always good to listen to older members. Let's go ahead and drop back into the chat. We are greeted by let's see, I think it's My A. Maybe hopefully I'm not butchering that name, but thank you for joining. She's greeting us, or he's greeting us. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm messing it up. But it says good day, Paul, to everyone. Thank you for joining us. Also, let us know where you're tuning in. Joshua Reyes says, miss everyone back in Texas. Uh, of course, Texas is now split. So we have South Central states up here and then District of Texas down south. Hopefully, we can have some reunion activities because it would be nice to come back together. Let's see. Sister Melanie, one way I maintain balance is by being fully present when I'm at work. This allows me to never have to take work home or work on the weekends, which then allows me to be fully present with my family. Absolutely. And Sister Melanie was featured in a CFO Today episode. So I think you can search on YouTube, CFO Today, South Central States, and she talks about her experiences as a teacher. And part of that is that balance. Let's see, Sister Mylene says, I don't think there is work life balance. You just have to manage it and prioritize each day, plan accordingly. So, of course, absolutely, you can always reframe the way you think about work and life, managing your time and knowing what to prioritize. Let's see, our sister Jane Manahan from Fort Worth, greeting everyone. And let's see, we have some greetings back and forth, of course, the brethren greeting each other in the chat. Brother Christian Agron also greeting the local of Dallas, his new, I guess you could say, his new local congregation that he's assigned to. Happy 48th anniversary, 48 years in Dallas. That's impressive. So that means in 2 years, we're going to hit that 50-year mark. It's hard to believe that Dallas has been around for 50 years. Wow. All right. Let's see. Sister Jane says she's viewing from Baton Rouge, where it's unusually cold, but the brethren are warm and kind. Absolutely. Baton Rouge, can't say enough about the brethren in Baton Rouge. when they show up to activities, they really show up, and they are really warm and kind. So highly recommend if anyone gets a chance to travel through like Louisiana, stop by the local congregation at Baton Rouge, and the brethren will be more than happy to see you. Let's see. So we got some more greetings. Let's see. Oh, Sister Remy from the Cleburne Group Worship Services. She's giving a little hand wave. Hello, Sister Remy. Thank you for joining us here today. Let's see. And our brother Christian Agron says, take one project at a time with God's help. Absolutely. So I'd like to echo with that. Uh, Taking things one day at a time, one project at a time, but it's also setting aside that time. I know I have a lot of paperwork myself that I have to do, but you set your mind to it. You sit down, and you'll find that you can power through things, and that's part of also prioritizing that time and organizing that time. And you have to learn organization techniques, whether that's using like a calendar app. So at work, what I'll do is I will schedule time on the calendar. I block it off. That way, also, I'm less likely to be pulled into a separate meeting, so I can get blocks of my work done. I've had to do that recently, so something to also consider too is calendar reminders. Also, notebooks. I've been seeing lots of INC radio programs and on INC media about like planners and the use of that to stay organized. Absolutely. Okay. But let's go ahead and talk about why, the big why. Why do we prioritize our time in our offices above all? And it comes down to this. Uh, Especially as members of the Church of Christ, we know that in the verse that really sticks in my head is nothing you ever do for God is ever useless. Okay, it's something to always keep in mind. Nothing you ever do for God is ever useless. Whether it's giving a ride to someone, uh, you know, um, just attending an activity, bringing food for an activity, helping to clean. All of these things they matter. All of these things are important. So first, above all, is prioritizing that time and knowing that the most valuable use of your time will be spent serving God. I know that when we're younger, maybe as we're younger, we don't necessarily see that, but we have to set our mind in that direction. Okay, maybe it's not quite obvious to you when you're to us when we're younger, but if our mind is set in that direction, the more and more you're going to see it. Okay, as you're helping to clean, as you're helping brethren out, as you're participating in activities, and it's always important to reflect and look back and see that, okay, look at all this work that I was a part of. And then you see the church grow because of that work. Okay. You will find that that time was very well spent. And for me, it's most recent in the time that I spent helping out the extensions that were in Louisiana and Mississippi. Because at the time I was younger, I was in college, having to sacrifice a lot of the time to help establish these group worship services. And it was just a little part. It's just singing in the choir, but that helps to carry those group worship services, those extensions. It helps them to carry along. And now they're their own local congregations. And I look back and it's like I was a part of that. Through God's help, I was a part of that. It wasn't quite obvious to me that maybe this was going to go somewhere. And now they're in a completely separate district, and they're in a district with us. And a lot of the brethren that I knew growing up, uh, like Brother Jerry in Biloxi, I always looked up to him, and now we're in the same district. So things like that, it's always important to look back on and reflect. Okay, so that helps reinforce your faith, knowing that the time that we spend, okay, the time that we spend doing things for church, doing things for God is always going to be useful. So prioritize that above all in your life. And when you're not sure if you can take on additional responsibilities, okay, you can. Okay, so as we've talked through here, managing the time, the work-life balance, it's better to tip that balance more to your life, more to your duties. Okay, because that's going to be the most meaningful use of your time in your life. Okay. I think that's the mic drop right there. I think we could pretty much end it on that. But let's go ahead and wrap up today with the comments. So we have our sister Kaylin Lee greeting us from Hawaii Pacific. Aloha po, everyone. Happy viewing from Hawaii. She says mahalo and 73. Mahalo, of course, is one of the greetings in Hawaii. So is aloha. We learned when we were kids. When I was a kid, they taught us that aloha has like 20 different meanings. It's like a greeting. It's a way to say goodbye. It's like a, you know, it's like ketchup. It's a ketchup word. You can use it for anything. And of course, 73 is a greeting in ham radio, which I'm still working on my ham radio license. I'm still trying to study for that test. So hopefully I get that soon. Let's see. Oh, she says that mahalo means thank you, Paul. Yeah, basically. So we also have our brother Victor greeting us from Blue Ridge. Thank you for joining us today, brother Victor. And we'll go ahead and give out our final shout out. So I'd like to thank our resident ministers, of course, Brother Paul Ignacio and Brother Renz Diaz here in Fort Worth and in Cleburne. Also, our district CFO overseer, Brother Christian Agron, Assistant District Minister, Brother Gilbert Anachete, our District Minister, Brother Andre B. Silva, Executive Producer, Brother Emmanuel Ndaya, Station Manager, Brother Arnel Solano, our CFO Coordinator and SEBC President, Brother Angelo Arano Vimanalo, and of course, our Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo Viamanalo. So be sure to tune in to INC Radio South Central States next Saturday. I plan on having a special guest from out of state. So hopefully we can get that show put together. And stay tuned for INC Radio Latin America coming up next. So thank you for joining us and keep your work life imbalanced. More to your life.